Greetings. Got your ticket? You don't have one? No problem. Just hit the subscription button below. Come on in. Hey guys, DFG here, Gideon's Flight. Um, Excuse my attire today because where I am today in New England, it's so nice and warm, toasty, 28 degrees outside. So okay, and that's the middle of the afternoon. So that's why I'm LSU Tigered up and down for you LSU Tigers, Louisiana State University Tigers, number 13 ranked. Let's see if I got that right. Men's basketball team. But anyway, that's not the purpose of the video. Today I come to you in a somewhat sober, well, a lot very much sober, but not so much sobering. That's the right word. With sobering thoughts. And here's why. Today is a very special day for one of my family members. And you've heard in some of the videos you talk about one of my sons, my oldest son. And my oldest son, as you may know from previous videos, is deceased. And today is his birthday. If he was still alive, he'd be celebrating the big 4-0 today. So I thought today would be a good day to do a video in remembrance of him, but at the same time, to really talk to you and to remind us, the consequences of war. And I know whenever some of us bring up war, some of us get offended, and we first thing we start thinking that as soon as someone brings up war, the word unpatriotic comes to mind. Well, I love America. I'm an Aboriginal, copper color American whose family was here probably since the first buffalo, I guess, were roaming the land. So what other names when we want to call people who love America, I guess many names, and I guess patriotism is one of those names. So that part of it, I kind of, I'll leave that up for you, how you want to describe yourself. But personally, I love America. Can it be better? Yeah, it could be better in a lot of ways. But is it better than a lot of other places around the planet because of people like you, myself, and many others? Yeah, it is, with all the work that America still has to do. But what I want to talk about, is the seriousness of what war brings to us. Martin Luther King once said there were such things as just wars and unjust wars. And he kind of gave a description of what a just war was. A just war is a war that you're fighting for the right to be free, for the right, to live peacefully, for right to protect the things and the people that you love. Those are just wars. And then there are unjust wars. And, and what I want to talk about a little bit is about the consequences of war. And in some cases, the consequences of an unjust war. Although they're very similar, unjust wars and just wars, the consequences, because when a soldier goes to war, and he sees action, live action, he sees death and carnage, he sees his friends getting wounded, in some cases, dying. He sees the enemy. Sometimes he has to kill in that, and sometimes he has to injure and wound others. What I want to talk about is the psychological damage that war brings. And, when I brought up my son, and, I'm going to show this to you, and I'm going to try to come back without messing this up too much. Y'all know how great a job I do with these videos. But that's my son in uniform, okay? If you can see him, I don't know. Hopefully you can see him fairly good. All right? And again, today is his birthday, and, he's not here because one of the effects of that a lot of veterans face when they come back from war is how to deal with, the things they've seen and the things that they experienced during war. Now, some of you guys may know this, but since 2008, would you believe me if I told you that 78,000 military veterans have committed suicide? Yes, and I did say 78,000. And we are averaging somewhere in the neighborhood between 6,000 to 8,000 soldiers per year who, because of not getting the treatment or not knowing how to go out and get that treatment, they're dying. And those are our sons, our daughters, our fathers, our brothers. And I think it's important that this gets talked about. I think this is important. That's something that we keep our foot and pressure on Congress, to make sure that they're taking the proper steps and keeping, out in front of Congress. That's our job, I might add, to keep out in front of Congress the fact that what are you doing for these veterans? What happens when these veterans come home? What are they coming home to? What are they dealing with? What are their families dealing with? Again, myself, because my son was one of those veterans who committed suicide directly in consequence to what happened to him when he was in the United States Air Force. Okay, so my message for me, it's a hit home message. It's today, for example, it's a rough day, for me as a father, because again, there's nothing like losing a child, especially when you know that your child didn't have to leave, your child didn't have to die. And my son, and I have two other sons, by the way, another has served, one is currently serving in the United States Navy. So it's not about, standing up for America. It's not about, fighting for this country in a just war. But when we, enter into these, unjust wars, the price that we pay, especially with what happens to our veterans when they come back home, is a huge concern. And it should be all of our concern. And we should all, ask ourselves the question, then why should we send our children out to fight if when they come back, they're not going to be looked after and taken care of, whether they seek help or whether or not they don't? Because at the end of the day, just like we were able to supervise and manage their lives when they were servicing you and I to keep us safe, at least that's what we're being told, then why can't we find a way to service them when they come back to keep them safe? And that is the responsibility of a responsible government and a responsible citizenship. So I'm not just going to pin this on the government. I'm going to pin this on the citizenry as well, because we're not little kids. We can't sit around and expect the government to do all the heavy lifting, and then we bitch and complain when something happens. We need to bitch and complain before something happens, and we need to force the government to assist us in doing the heavy lifting collectively, as a group. It should be a group effort. But there's no way we should be losing 8,000 to 10,000, soldiers, you know what I'm saying? Or 6,000 to 10,000. That's the real actual number that I saw. Every single year, that are falling through the cracks we call suicide. Because there's not enough emphasis and attention being placed on this. And you guys know I'm right. I mean, if you follow any kind of the mainstream media, when the last time you saw mainstream media talking about what I just brought to your attention? When the last time have you heard that? I'm not saying you haven't heard it, but how often are you hearing it? Truly, if we were losing 10,000 soldiers a year in combat, we would all be in an uproar. We'd be outraged, would we not? We would be outraged if 10,000 of our soldiers were getting killed in any war anywhere around the world every year. We wouldn't be able to stomach it, most of it. We would be, no, bring them home. Whatever you got to do to figure out how to win this war, get it done, bring our boys home. Yet we're losing that many men and women, every single year, because it appears, we're so set on the war and what we've been told on why we fight the war that we're not, in my humble opinion, not preaching at you, by the way, just sharing and asking, for your support. I'm asking for you to care, okay? Because they care about us. You know what I'm saying? They care, and they cared about us. So why should we reciprocate that back to them? So I'm pleading to your sense of dignity, your sense of justice, that that we turn our government away from these unjust wars. And what is unjust wars? Wars that we're going in and sending our soldiers into harm's way when really America is not at risk. And yes, there are wars that are going on and soldiers who are out there losing their lives every day, in places all around the world. And some of these places are no threat to us. I know we get told about terrorism and Al Qaeda and ISIS and some of these other terrorist groups. And I wish I knew foreign affairs well enough to tell you more about, where they come from, how legit it is, which there is some legitimacy to that, so I'm going to be clear. But that's not my area of expertise. All I know that if our young men and women and other soldiers are out there, losing their lives, or if they make it through the battles and come back home and then take their lives, we have a responsibility to have answers, and we have a responsibility to demand solutions, and put a stop to this. Those men and women should be some of the most honored women on the planet. Because at the end of the day, they're paying the ultimate price. They can leave the war, but sometimes the war don't leave them, guys. And that's what you have to remember. They can leave the war, but they can't leave, but the war doesn't leave them. The best example I can give you, is this thing called earworm. You guys know what an earworm is? You hear this song playing over and over, and then after the song plays, you still hear the song playing in your mind, sometimes all day, the next day. War, in many instances, is the same way for our soldiers. When they close their eyes, they go back to war. When they're just sitting around, just being quiet, what we may not see, what we might not understand, is that they're replaying the war. They're replaying the tragedy. They're replaying, the fear and the intimidation, the aggression. The mayhem. And they could be just as quiet, calm, smiling at you. How you doing? And you would have no idea that's what's going on with them. That's why we have to address it as a silent killer, and we have to address it with empathy and with compassion and aggression. Again, yes, I'm a father that has lost a son, to foreign wars. I'm a father who has 2 sons again serving. But this is not a woe is me conversation. This is, what are we going to do about this so this doesn't continue to happen? And fathers like me, and many of you all, and brothers and sisters and mothers, don't have to celebrate a holiday for one of your children. A birthday, for one of your children, and that child is dead. Because no one seemed to understand their needs and create a safe environment for them to be able to come back after they've served us with everything and to feel whole enough to want to live. The tough part should have been over with in the war. But unfortunately, because we're not talking about it, we're not taking responsibility for it, we're not putting pressure on the government to get something done, as many of them are dying here, that's dying abroad. In dedication to Dale Francis Green Jr. and many, many other women and men, sons and daughters, brothers, fathers, sisters, mothers who have died, through suicide. This is for you. And I hope you guys share this video so that others can hear and know. And we keep this on the forefront of what all the other issues that we have. And we pull out of these places. Don't let these war hawks send our children, these neocons send our children at war. Without a true need to protect America and a true need to keep us safe. And I'll close this video by talking about places like Iran. We don't need to go there. Iraq. We don't need to go. Well, we're already there. I'm sorry. Syria. We need to get out of there. We're getting out, but we need to stay out of there. We don't need to be in Venezuela. Cuba, Nicaragua. All these other places. There's a saying, rich men fight thought wars, poor men fight them. And if I were you, we need to stop this studying war. And the only way we're going to stop it, we got to talk about it, and we got to take action. Give me your comments. Thanks again. Share the video. Bye, guys.